Shalom, everybody. We are continuing with where we left off in the Likutey Halakhot section, or Chaim, the laws of Hoda'ah, blessings of giving thanks, discourse number 6, which is based on lesson 24, Likutey Moharan. We're still towards the end of paragraph 24, and we're trying to summarize the whole vision and experience of Yaakov Avinu, of the vision of the ladder, and his sleeping at the place of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, we left off where Yaakov Avinu was filled with fear. Vayira vayomar ma nora makom hazeh. He was afraid, filled with fear, trepidation, and he said, "How fearful, how full of awe is this place!" Right? And we explained that this is an amazing experience that he had of fear because of the joining of the running of the soul due to doing the mitzvot with joy, and then being bounced back by the Keter. Okay, after hearing all this, you say, "Wow, Yaakov Avinu, you merited something very big, something unbelievable, and ashrecha, fortunate are you, Yaakov Avinu." But what Rav Nosson is going to say now, something unbelievable, is that the greatness of the tzaddikim is as great as their perception is in life, and as amazing it is, they don't lose track of the whole picture. That the goal is that everybody, all Am Yisrael, eventually have it rectified, have it made, B'ezrat Hashem. Not just them. Like Rav Nosson once said about himself, "My Mashiach has already come. My Mashiach is already here." How about the rest of the world? How about everybody else? So this is a concern of the tzaddikim. Now, why you'd say, okay, what does that have to do with me? This happens a lot in life, that some people, they get overwhelmed with an enlightening experience, and they forget about everything else, and they might even feel they're living in Mashiach mode, and they're like dreaming, and they're not in reality. They're not in reality. They're not there to take care of their family, their kids, their wives, their parnasa. They're not grounded. They're just flying in Geula mode, and it's not real, okay? As long as the third Beit HaMikdash is not here, we're still not there. Even if a person say, "I saw the light, I saw the Lord, I saw God," whatever you want, these people, they have prophecies and everything. Great, bravo, but look at the world. Look at the world. It's still not the science. It's still not here yet. And the tzaddikim, their greatness is as high as they go in their light and their experience that they have of godliness, of closeness. Like Rav Nosson is going to say, they don't lose track. They don't forget about everyone else. In other words, but it's still not here for them. I may be okay. I'm having this amazing light, and I can forget myself and go into my mode and my world. They don't forget. And this can happen also on an individual level. A person can have a lot of light and a lot of amazing advancement, and you might be able to forget about others. In other words, they can take care of themselves. But no, if I'm having light and other people are not, so my goal is to share it with other people. I got to share it to lift them up and to bring them into the Geula mode, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay? It's a lot in this concept. Even Rabbi Nachman, Rav Nosson, they go into this a lot. That person does not lose track. Don't lose track, B'ezrat Hashem, of the real perspective, real reality. You can be living in your bubble, but it's in a bubble. You're okay, you're protected, you're in your bubble, but the world at large, the Jewish people, Mashiach's not here yet. So we have to do more. You can't say now, okay, I'm not going to get up for Chatzot and carve the Beit HaMikdash because I'm living in such an amazing experience. It can happen for people. It happens. You can have a light and get carried away with it. So here, he's giving a point that when it happens, not everybody has it happen, and it happens to rare people, but when it happens, the greatness of the tzaddikim is they don't lose track. Watch what he says. Okay? If you remember the verse reads, let's read the verse again. The whole verse. Again, we're reading from Parshat Vayetze, chapter 28, verse 17. Right? I'll read the verse again to get a picture of what's happening here. Yaakov woke up from the dream, okay? Vayira vayomar, and he was, like we said, full of fear, trepidation, and he said the following. Ma nora hamakom hazeh. How full of awe is this place? And we said Makom is referring to the Keter, which happens to be at the place of the Beit HaMikdash. The Beit HaMikdash of down in this world faces the holy temple of above, and that's the maximum actual place in this world where the light of the Keter can be experienced on a maximum level. And this is where Yaakov Avinu slept of all places. Okay, so he said, and after experiencing the Makom, which is the bounce into the place, the Makom, okay, which is the Keter, which is the gateway to the infinite light. All right, Ein ze ki im beit Elokim. Ein ze is a funny expression. We translate it as, this is none other. Ein ze ki im. This is none other than the house of the Lord. But ein ze literally is, ein means not, no, ein, none, negative. Ze is this. No, this, ki'im, for only, ki'im, unless, except, an exception, the house of the Lord. V'zeh sha'ar shamayim. Okay? And this is the gate of the heavens. Just so you should know, the Midrash Rabbah points out in this verse 3 times zeh, the word zeh. Vayira vayomar ma norah hamakom hazeh, ein zeh ki im beit Elokim, v'zeh sha'ar shamayim. So the Midrash points out this is referring to the 3 temples. Okay? 2 which will be destroyed, and the 3rd one will stand forever. The 3rd one is zeh sha'ar shamayim. This is the gateway. The word sha'ar is like an expression of stronghold. Sha'ar shamayim, this is the gate, the stronghold of heaven, is referring to the 3rd temple. Okay? The first 2 are the ones that were destroyed. Okay? Mano hamakom hazeh, it was an experience, but it's only zeh. And the Midrash says the word zeh can mean a few things, but one of them is it means mourning by reciting dirges. Like it says, al zeh haya davel libeno. The Midrash brings this down, the Midrash Rabbah. On this were our hearts mourning and sad. Al zeh, on the destruction of the temple and the ceasing of the singing of the priests and the Levites, etc. Okay? So that's the verse. Look how Rav Nosson opens it up. Vezeu, this now, what we had just said and had in mind, this has the meaning of the following words. Ein ze ki im beit Elokim. This is none other than the house of the Lord. First of all, why is he saying this? Why? You just said, Vayira v'yomar ma norah makom hazeh. He was filled with fear, and he said, how fearful is this place? Okay? That's it. Why mention that this is the house of the Lord, which means it's going to be the house of the Lord? Why, Yaakov Avinu, are you going to the future if at the present you had this experience and you're saying something from the present? You're saying, whoa, this is the place, where already Avram was and Yitzchak was. This is the place in the present. And he's saying this is none other than the future Beit Elokim, which we're going to see right now. The question is, why are you jumping from a present experience and being overwhelmed by the present experience, and then the next statement you go into is on a future thing? It didn't happen yet, Yaakov Avinu. In other words, the question is, your fear is based on right now, which you saw now, the dream of the ladder. So you should be full of awe for what happened now. Why are you throwing out, this is not under the place of the house of the Lord, which is going to be? Why bring that up? Why bring it up? Your experience is in the present. Keep it at that. Why did you have to add Yaakov Avinu? Ein zeh ki im beit Elokim. This is the question here, okay? So he says, what is Beit Elokim? Shehu Beit HaMikdash. We understand the house of the Lord is a reference to Beit HaMikdash. It's called the house of the Lord because that's how Yaakov called it. Okay, he called it. Avraham, the Gemara, it's a Gemara coming up, we'll see in Psachim, page 88. The Gemara says that Avraham Avinu called Mount Moriah, the Har, the mountain. The mountain is the place that, in the story of the Akedah, where he bound Yitzchak Avinu, and Hashem showed him where to go, so he came to the mountain, Mount Moriah. It's a mountain. And then later on, Yitzchak Avinu was davening in the field. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh, when Eliezer came with Rivka back for the Shidduch, right? So it says that when he bumped into Yitzchak, he was in the middle of davening mincha, and he went to daven in a field. What was that field? It was on the place of the same mountain, but a field part. But it's funny. Avram experienced it as a mountain. Yitzchak experienced it as a field. And Yaakov is calling it a house, Beit Elokim. Okay, but we'll get to this soon. Rav Nosson is pointing out Beit Elokim, without a doubt, Shehu Beit HaMikdash. What's going on? Why is he throwing this in? Beit HaMikdash is going to be Yaakov Avinu. Why are you throwing this in now? From your present vision. Shera'a vehevin, because he saw and understood the following. She'i efshar lahashlim tikun hasagot elu bishlemut. As great as he is perceiving the perceptions that he was of bashing into the Makom, the Keter, being bounced back, building vessels, the nine chambers to perceive the infinite light, and seeing what he's seeing, okay? As much as it's great, it's not complete. For that it's impossible to complete the rectification of these perceptions totally, complete in a complete format and fashion. Ki'im kishibane beit Elokim, only when will be built the house of the Lord. What is the house of the Lord? That's referring specifically to the third temple. Sheu habeit hamikdash ha'acharon shibane b'zchuto. Beit Elokim is referring to the temple, the last temple, the third temple, which will be built, like the Gemara says, in the merit of Yaakov Avinu. The first temple was built in the merit of Avraham, but it wasn't complete because Avraham is more on the balance of Chesed, without balance. The light of Chesed is Avraham Avinu, but there's no balance, so too much light caused the destruction. Yitzchak was the second temple, corresponding to Gvura, which is severity, but you can't just run on severity. You need a balance also. That's why it was destroyed in a more devastating way. It says that the first temple, who set it on fire? Not Nebuchadnezzar, not his army. It was, the Gemara says, the angel Gabriel took one of the coals from the altar of the temple from above and set it upon the temple, the first temple. That's how when it set on fire. Nebuchadnezzar and his army didn't at all have access to setting it on fire. It didn't work. It was specifically Gabriel. The second temple, which was more severe, Titus from the Roman Empire, he set it on fire. Yes, the enemies, it was degrading. It was low. Because Yitzchak is Gvura, and the closeness, proximity of evil people to Gvura is close. So when the generation didn't merit and the second temple was destroyed, so specifically the fire from Titus and his Roman army and empire, they're the ones who set the second temple on fire. Okay? So those are the first two. But the third one is the merit of Yaakov Avinu, will not be destroyed, showing you the completeness of Yaakov. He's a balance. He's the balance between Avraham and Yitzchak. He's Tiferet. And to show you that balance is the secret of life. Secret for everything. Whatever you do in life, like the Chafetz Chaim starts off Mishnah Berurah, that everything you do in life, try to be in the middle. Even in halacha, don't try to be always machmir, because in the end you'll drop everything. And don't be too lenient either. Come on, be normal. Be normal. What's normal? Take a look. Learn halacha. You see the stringent opinions. You see the lenient middle way. And all these people, it's not for our generation today. Don't give us that. Halacha is halacha. But you have to know how to make a balance, not to be too strict and not to be too lenient. Okay? Which is, by the way, the Mishnah Berurah, quoting the Rambam, says there are two things, yes, you should always be strict. And that's what? On haughtiness, and not to be the extreme opposite of haughty, which is humble, and on anger, to be the extreme opposite of anger. That's a hard work. But there's no middle path for anger and haughtiness in the middle. You have to go all the way to the other side. But everything else, okay? Laws of modesty, even everything, don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Okay, that's Yaakov Avinu, and that's the third temple. That's complete. Something which is balanced is lasting. That's the point. Okay? The third temple, the last one, which we built in his merit, like the rabbi said in the Gemara, like our sages explain, of blessed memory, Psachim, page 88a. You can see there, we went into it. That in Micha, it's a verse in Micha. Let's just quickly read the verse. The verse reads from Micha, okay? It's a few verses. Vaya ba'acharit hayamim, and it will be in the end of days. Yehar Beit Hashem nachon berosh harim. It will be the mountain of the house of Hashem will be ready on the top of the mountains. V'nisahu mikvaot, and will be elevated from the plateaus. V'naharu alav amim, and the nations will start flocking to it. V'alchu goyim rabim v'amru, and many nations will go and they'll say the following: Lechu v'na'aleh, go, you the Jewish people go, and also we also will go up to the mountain of Hashem and to the house of El Beit Elokei Yaakov and to the house of the Lord of Jacob. Okay, so that's the verse that El Beit Elokei Yaakov, and then the whole Gemara says not like Avraham who called it a mountain and not like Yitzchak called it a field, but like Yaakov who called it a house because he called it Beit Kel. That's the parsha of Vayetzeh, right? Makom El Beit El. He called this place the Lord of Beit Kel, and that's after coming up. We're going to see when he offered made a neder, and then afterwards a sacrifice on this place called Beit Kel. So he called it Beit. Yaakov called it a house. It's a verse from Micha, chapter 4, verse 2. It's also similar language of this verse is also in Isaiah chapter 2, verse 3. Okay? So the point is though that Yaakov called it a house because a house is a balance. A mountain is too high, a field is too lowly, too open. A house is a place. What's a balance? There's walls, there's rooms, there's privacy, and in the privacy I can develop. Right? That's the bite, and the bite is revealing the highest levels of the light. When you have a keli, a vessel, then you're able to receive the light. Like in our context, the infinite light can only be perceived through a vessel. If you just want to run into the light, you'll disappear, you'll melt, you'll blow up. What's needed is a vessel, and that's like a house. Okay? Kisham, and he goes back to because the idea of the temple, in particular the third temple, Bezat Hashem, Kisham kol hasagat tisha hechalin kaniz kalel, because it's in the temple where will be perceived all the 9 chambers that we said are vessels made to perceive within them the infinite light. We went into that on details. The 9 is from 3 times 3. 3 being the person's chokhmah, bina, da'at, his knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and being bounced back, become mumbled, mixed up by the bounce back. It becomes 3 times 3 times 3, which makes 9, and those are the 9 chambers. Okay. Now watch this. Va'alken amar belashon ein zeh. Now we understand why Yaakov used the wording ein zeh. Like we said, ein zeh means no, there is none. There is none what? Because of zeh. There's only zeh. Ein zeh. Where the little translation is, this is none other, is ein zeh kim beit Elokim. So Rav Noson's working on the words ein zeh. There's nothing here. What does it mean ein zeh? Shemeramez al kol hachurbanot. Yaakov Avinu said ein zeh. In other words, there's nothing, only zeh, which is destruction. And all I can wait for is ki'im, except for the exception from zeh, which we said from the Midrash means destruction. The exception is Beit Elokim. In other words, ein zeh, there's no zeh, there's nothing, because there's only zeh, which is the mourning, the keynote, the mourning of the dirges over the second destruction and the first destruction. So Rav Nosson says, is quoting the Midrash Rabbah, chapter 69, paragraph 7, that the Midrash there says, ein zeh hints to all the destructions. Like our sages said in the Midrash Rabbah. So what's the point? What's the idea here? Hainu, in other words, like we said before we started the class, that even though Yaakov Avinu, he reached such a perception, he perceived now, he perceived now what he saw, that amazing vision of the ladder, and he sees what he sees, like these tzaddikim at that caliber. Aval adayin ein ze tachlit hasaga ki im beit Elokim. But nonetheless, this is still not the finalized perception of godliness, of the infinite light that we can perceive in this physical world. Ki im beit Elokim. Only once there'll be the house of the Lord, which is referring to the third temple, Yaakov's temple, the third Beit HaMikdash, Shewa Beit HaCharon, which is the last temple. She'az daika yittaken hakol. That then specifically will everything be rectified. So you understand why Yaakov's storing it in. As great as he's perceiving, and it's unbelievable, so far as it hasn't been for everybody, it's not there. I'm not there. I personally may be there, but if it's not for the whole world, the whole world, it's still not an accomplishment. Okay? which is a time when everything will be rectified at the time of the third temple, and all the holy sparks left in the domain of evil, the domain of the exchange chambers, will be clarified and elevated and rectified from the exchange chambers. Venizke kulanu, Rav Noson's words is very precise. And then we will all merit, kulanu, lesimcha atzuma, to tremendous joy, bechinat ki besimcha tetzeu. Like the verse reads in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 12, for with joy will we leave the galut. We come out of the galut through joy. Ve'az daika yitaken kol anal bishlemut. And it's specifically that everything will be rectified completely. So the point is, Yaakov Avinu, at the height of his spiritual high, he doesn't forget perspective. Ein zeh kim beit Elokim. Ein zeh, it's still not there. Ein, there's nothing here still because of zeh, because there's going to be 2 more destructions. And when will it be? Beit Elokim. Ki'im beit Elokim, only when there'll be the third temple, which is called the Bait, the house of the Lord, which is how Yaakov Avinu called it, like the verse in Micha, okay? The house of the Lord, which is what we're waiting for, then it'll be complete. Yaakov Avinu is already saying that at the beginning and not getting stuck on the experience, but letting us know that it's considered nothing so long as it can help the Jewish people. Rabbi Nachman said this many times, that the tzaddikim, as great as they go up, their perceptions are nothing in their eyes so long as they can't bring it down to help other Jewish people. And because there's so much work to do, they feel that all their perceptions, even though they've helped already so many people, since it hasn't helped totally yet, it's in their eyes as if it's nothing. That's how the tzaddikim perceive their greatness and their perceptions, like Yaakov Avinu perceiving what he saw. It's still nothing vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and they have that in mind. They say, as great as it is, as long as we can't help all the Jewish people yet, we still have more work to do. We're not going to stop. And it's a comfort for us to hear that the tzaddikim say that about themselves, that they're there for us still. They didn't forget about us. It's amazing, before Rabbi Nachman passed away, and he was slowly dying, so Rav Nosson cried out, and other Breslovers, Rebbe, to are you leaving us? You're leaving us like orphan children, leaving us in the middle. So Rabbi Nachman made like a gesture with his eyes. Rav Nosson writes as if to say, Chas v'shalom, I'm not leaving you guys. I'm still with you guys. It's a big comfort when the tzaddikim indicate always they're with us. So that no matter how low we fall, how low we've fallen, how things are so crooked and upside down in life, and you feel, oh, I'm just so off the path. Look how I turned out. Look how my family turned out. How my kids turned out. How this, whatever. A person can say many things, but the comfort is that the tzaddikim are still there. They didn't you can't say, oh, the tzaddikim, they're all the way up there and they're having fun and they're enjoying their paradise. They're spiritual club med, and look at me. We don't say that. We say the tzaddikim, they're there for us. Yaakov Avinu is there. Yaakov Avinu lo met. He didn't die. He's still here for us. And the tzaddikim of that caliber too. B'ezrat Hashem.